A home in Teller County erupts into flames, with those living nearby hearing explosions.
That very fire has now spread to 90 acres with no containment tonight.
It's threatening right around 700 homes.
Smoke filling the Highland Lakes area north of Florissant and Divide, forcing mandatory evacuations.
We have a crew there live to bring you up-to-the-minute developments. And good evening. We begin tonight with that wildfire actively burning in Teller County. More than 2,000 people are evacuated at this hour as crews battle what's being called the Highland Lakes fire.
The ignition point of that fire, a home on Beaver Lake Circle. At this hour, 700 homes are now in the evacuation area centered on the Highland Lakes subdivision and neighborhoods along County Road 5.
A lot of vehicles coming and going, mainly public works vehicles in the last 10-15 minutes or so. A water tanker, a road grader, some other vehicles like that, maybe a bulldozer that's on tracks. There is progress up here. It's not a lot, but a little progress is better than nothing. The biggest factor up here right now is the winds. These are the types of winds that when you sit in your car at a red light, you kind of feel the car rocking back and forth a bit, like our camera and our light are doing as well. They're pretty intense. They're certainly not ideal for fighting a wildfire, but that's the conditions that these firefighters have been dealt with. We have seen a few bucket drops today from helicopters, but not for the last few hours. We haven't heard the sound of a helicopter for some time because the winds have grounded all those aircraft. That's not helping either. Luckily, there was a lot of overnight work done by crews, and that has helped to keep the situation from getting too far out of control.
Yeah, we were just talking about that in studio, Bart, that we're not seeing as much smoke plumes as we did yesterday. That could be due to maybe the winds just laying it down flat. I do want to ask you, though, you know the area fairly well. Your kids have gone to that Golden Bell camp for several years. Can you give us an idea of the terrain that those firefighters are dealing with and the terrain in which it's burning?
Yeah, they have. They've gone to Golden Bell for 3 or 4 years over the last few years. It's a special place, and needless to say, for both personal and professional reasons, we've been monitoring their Facebook page pretty closely the last few days, last 24 hours or so.
Certainly, this is putting off a lot of smoke in that area. So if you're traveling along Highway 50 or even I-25, you're bound to see this if you're in the Pueblo vicinity. And there it looks like that helicopter might have one of those Bambi buckets. I believe it can carry upwards of 100 gallons of water. So no doubt these aerial assets are really beneficial to putting out those flames.
Let's take a look down Highway 24. Look, you can see some deer at the deer crossing right now. Barely see those deer, and I'm honestly not sure you'd be able to see those signs if they weren't yellow. And now the road closure, it started back around 8 o'clock this morning. CDOT doesn't want your cars coming down this way, and you don't want to be standing outside here either. The wind is turning light, fluffy snow into pins and needles, hitting your exposed skin.
My office made a very disturbing discovery in the town of Penrose, Colorado.
An enormous crime scene at a southern Colorado funeral home. Nearly 200 decomposing bodies stacked on top of each other.
What did you do with my son? What did you do with my son?
Families lied to for years, allegedly given concrete instead of their loved ones' ashes.
They look like quickcrete, dried into little tiny rocks.
The husband and wife who own the funeral home are now facing hundreds of charges.
Disgrace, pure evil.
A real fine piece of
Tonight, our KRDO13 Investigates team exposes the ignored warning signs.
You mean to tell me if someone went and inspected that place, they wouldn't have known something was wrong?
And examines how our state laws may have allowed this tragedy to happen.
And so Colorado basically is attracting the worst of the industry to come here.
What's next for families, the criminal case, and the funeral home industry? In Body of Lies, a KRDO13 Investigates special report.
Good evening. I'm Heather Skold.
And I'm Bart Bedsole. Thank you for joining us for our KRDO13 Investigate special report, Body of Lies. For the next 30 minutes, our investigative team will delve into the Return to Nature funeral home case that has captured attention nationwide.
Tonight, families are still waiting for justice, while others wait to learn if their loved ones are among the victims. In the midst of the heartbreak, we've uncovered the ignored red flags and the system that may have allowed this to go on.
But before we get to that, we start with the chilling secret that came to light last October.
It all began when people started to notice a strong, foul odor and liquid seeping from the funeral home.
Penrose, Colorado. Population 3,185. A handful of shops line Broadway in town. A bid for traffic to exit the busy highway. One business, though, that sits on the outskirts of town within a stone's throw of Highway 115, indeed got customers. But to those on the outside, the non-assuming building had little to no activity. It appeared vacant. It caught the eye of some entrepreneurs hoping to expand their business. It was just the right size and location, or so they thought. They took a closer look in mid-September, and what met them was a distinct odor and suspicious fluids seeping from all sides of the building. A call to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office was met with no answers. This response from a deputy dispatched there.
This is Deputy Teal with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office. We went over there and looked at the funeral home. Everything looks okay. No, it's not the most pleasant thing in the world, but unfortunately, it's been like that for a while and there's nothing I can do. It is a legal operation, so...
It would be just days later, October 4th, the property was teeming with investigators, flashlights piercing the night sky.
Quite frankly, what they are telling us and what we have seen with our own eyes and just the nature of the operation here at this property leads us to believe this is a pretty serious situation. When
County, state, and federal agencies descended on the site, crime scene tape surrounding it. The next day, the governor issued a disaster declaration for the area. Neighbors who initially brushed off the smell stunned by the news.
Just thought it was a dead animal. We've been having deer coming over here. We thought maybe somebody hit one on the highway and it died over here.
It was a colossal crime scene for weeks. Agents spotted wearing hazmat suits just to retrieve the bodies left to rot inside. The nearby El Paso County coroner stepping in to help identify the bodies, nearly doubling past initial estimates. At least 180 bodies found piled inside. Dr. Leon Kelly.
We are exhausting every in existence scientific and investigative ability that we have to identify every single one of these people.
For so many who used Return to Nature to send their loved ones over to the other side, the discovery in Penrose meant that the weeks, months, or even years they had spent healing was potentially all for nothing. KRDO13's Tyler Cunnington brings us the story of a renewed grieving process for nearly 200 families.
Samantha Naranjo's grandmother, Dorothy Tardif,
Very strong woman.
was the matriarch of their family tree.
She has 27 grandchildren.
Dorothy died just before her 83rd birthday in October of 2022.
Everyone felt her love, felt her genuine spirit.
Just hours after her passing, John and Carrie Halford, the owners of Return to Nature Funeral Home, arrived at Tardif's home. She says John took it upon himself to go to Dorothy's room and carry her to the front door.
He jolted into the living room with her body moving in his arms. He was able to catch his footing as he was laughing, saying, "It's okay, we're gonna take great care of your loved one."
A day that left such a shaky first impression eventually pieced itself together.
The nightmares haven't stopped.
And only seemed to get worse, as Naranjo and so many others would come to realize they were likely given ground-up concrete instead of ashes.
My mom made necklaces for the women and bracelets for the men in our family to have urns. And I put my son's bracelet on him and he asked, "Is it really her this time?" And I just broke down crying.
And from then, like the opening of Pandora's box, families were flooded by darkness.
It keeps me up at night. My grandma was one of the most important people in my life.
And some just left to wonder, with their family members yet to be identified.
My mother asked me last night, about my daughter. But where is she? I said, I don't know. I had to tell her I don't know.
And swelling with anger at the mere thought of John and Carrie.
Absolute psychopaths.
Animals.
A real fine piece of shit.
And while an urn is meant to represent the decades of one's love, memories, and spirit, it now just serves as a constant reminder of the unthinkable. Tyler Cunnington, KRDO13.
So who are these funeral home owners?
And what may have led them to allegedly lie to so many families?
John, do you have anything to say to the families?
Coming up in our special report, Body of Lies, KRDO13 investigates, digs into the owner's history and the ignored warning that could have spared so many families this unthinkable grief.
The big KRDO13 investigates update tonight. The Return to Nature funeral home, where investigators found nearly 200 bodies decomposing, is now reduced to just rubble.
The first day of demolition for the building by the EPA is just about complete, but before it started, a ceremony for families to bid that nightmarish building goodbye. All of this happening today just off of Highway 115 in Penrose. KRDO13's Tyler Cunnington is live at the soon-to-be former site of the Return to Nature funeral home with this major update. Tyler?
Yeah, Bart, Heather, you can see this building behind me, one that's caused so many families anguish for so many years here in southern Colorado, is now no more. Families clutching photos of their loved ones today who were found in that building half a year ago. Today, marking the start of a new chapter for nearly 200 families impacted in this investigation.
I'm excited. I'm happy. I feel like I can finally start healing, finally get some closure.
Tuesday marked the beginning of the end for the Return to Nature funeral home, with federal health officials reducing the building to rubble by the afternoon.
Folks, this community shares your grief.
In a ceremony held before the demolition, Fremont County officials thanked the agencies who helped the investigation get to this point.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Families saying the same. A day that understandably led to tears and hugs of comfort for many.
A lot of emotion. It hit me harder than I thought it would, actually.
And yet, Carrie Wyrick Polikoff's father, Skip, still hasn't been identified yet, marring this day for a true sense of closure.
I'm not sure I'm ever going to feel that.
Mary Simons, who KRDO13 spoke to the first day of this investigation in October, says it's a day she's been waiting for.
Oh, it's a whole new chapter that I'm actually really excited to be starting right now.
Photos may be the one reminder that these families still have, but the funeral home will no longer be one, as all of the debris will be shipped to a landfill in Otero County within the next 10 days.
Just hoping for some peace.
Fremont County Coroner Randy Keller, who organized that ceremony earlier today, says that 17 bodies still remain to be identified in this investigation and says they are now down to the process of just using DNA to try to bring those families answers.
Tonight, the funeral homeowners at the center of controversy for more than a year will both be in custody as they await sentencing for improperly storing nearly 200 bodies inside that building in Penrose.
John and Carrie Halford, the owners of Return to Nature funeral home, both accepted a plea deal today that could put them behind bars for upwards of 2 decades. KRDO13's Tyler Cunnington spent the morning at the El Paso County Courthouse, bringing us the latest of that emotional hearing today. Tyler.
Bart and Heather, the tension, the excitement, and the tears of relief from families in a packed El Paso County Courthouse today was palpable through much of that morning. as they watched John and Carrie Halford plead guilty to over 190 counts of abuse of a corpse, taking accountability for the unthinkable that has scarred so many families for the last year. Guilty. It's the word so many families victimized by John and Carrie Halford's Return to Nature funeral home scandal have longed to hear.
It was very gratifying. It was very vindicating.
Heather DeWolf has been here every step of the way,
What did you do with my son? What did you do with my son?
demanding justice from the couple. On Friday, she watched the two accept plea deals, potentially landing John in prison for 20 years and Carrie 15 to 20 years, over 191 counts of abuse of a corpse.
But for them to be in prison for the longest amount of time, I think is important.
Alongside her, Samantha Naranjo, who watched as the judge made the couple say out loud how they treated those bodies to fit the crime.
It really does boil up in me when I'm sitting there looking at them and hearing them.
And in a total surprise to families, Judge Eric Bentley decided to deny Carrie from having bond that she has been out on since February, putting her into El Paso County Jail until sentencing next April. John seen mouthing the words, "I'm sorry," to his wife.
I was looking at other people in the courtroom and, other family members and my mom and, like, oh my gosh, she's going to get arrested.
It was just amazing. That collective sense of relief,
District Attorney Michael Allen, whose team has been prosecuting this case since last November when the couple was arrested, touting the plea deal as a significant achievement, considering that abuse of a corpse is a Class 6 felony that has no mandatory sentencing with those charges.
It's a game that promises better odds than the lottery. All it takes is some skill-solving clues and determination to do so for weeks, if not months at a time.
It is a real-world treasure hunt kicked off this year, offering life-changing money. And as KRDO13's Josh Helmuth shows us, the latest treasure was found right here in Colorado Springs.
This is the moment Fernie Martinez knew.
I took a day off work.
He was about to strike it rich. A real life treasure hidden in plain sight.
Here it is.
A tangible bronze wish lamp.
This location's closed, so I looked around anyway, and that's when I found it.
No genie required.
I'm getting a little emotional.
Worth $200,000.
I'm gonna let my kids know. My daughter spotted it, and when she spotted it, that got me, when we went home, I started doing research on it.
After weeks of studying clues, Fernie drove 2 hours from Severance.
So this is the box it was in.
To prove this famous purple castle indeed.
My heart jumped in my throat.
Held riches fit for a king.
I did this because I wanted to build a better model to spread wealth.
Dirk Gibson is a TV producer behind this new real-world treasure hunt.
I visually saw the castle, and I thought, oh, that's cool. That kind of fits the vibe of what I'm, positivity and adventure and fun.
He cold called the owner of King's Chef Diner.
My excitement was kind of building, but I couldn't tell anybody.
A downtown staple for nearly 70 years.
The engagement for the community was great, and getting somebody from Colorado to win it is even better.
Now, if you're lucky or clever enough to find one of these wish lamps, you'll see a QR code on the box like this one.
You scan that with your phone, where you'll get a link showing a big congratulations, but most importantly, the digits to unlock the padlock in this box right here where the wish lamp fell. The entire time you're on security camera, and you have to shoot yourself on your cell phone, proving that you're actually the one who discovered it.
It was all an adventure. It was, even if we didn't find it, we had a great time.
And if X marks this spot...
He persevered because we all gave up, kind of, but my dad kept trying.
Happily ever after...
Stay skeptical so that less people play, so we have a better chance.
Starts on the breakfast menu.
It's hard to put into words.
Josh Helmuth.
That's what it buys, is peace of mind.
KRDO13.
A month later, we're still on cloud 9.
Colorado Springs.
I still want to get breakfast from there, so.
I know, it sounds good.
Well,
multiple Olympic teams have already left our city to train in North Carolina, and others are in talks to do the same. Our KRDO13 team is live across Colorado Springs and in North Carolina tonight. KRDO13 anchor Heather Skold traveled more than 1,500 miles to Charlotte to get answers. Heather joins us live tonight to kick off our Olympic City identity crisis coverage. Heather?
KRDO13 has spoken with multiple sources from Olympic teams in Colorado Springs who confirm they are in talks to potentially transfer their training to here in Charlotte, North Carolina at this elite training facility. None want to go on camera for fear of retribution from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, but some teams have already made this transition, which begs the question, if more teams follow suit, what does that mean for Colorado Springs and Olympic City, USA? Most who live in Colorado Springs are familiar with the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. It's been a staple in the Springs since 1978, a hub for America's finest athletes. But according to insiders, the facility is a ghost town.
It's like going to the zoo, but there's no animals in the zoo.
Eli Brimmer trained there for 12 years as an Olympic pentathlete. He's stayed in touch with Olympic teams here and says there's been a massive shift in the last decade.
We've lost the athletes here, we've lost coaches, we've sort of lost the infrastructure.
Come to find out, there's a colossal competitive effort to clinch Olympic teams. Enter the United States Performance Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's already the training site of 3 national governing bodies, USA Archery, USA Taekwondo, and USA Field Hockey, all of which used to train in Colorado Springs. It boasts that a dozen Olympic teams in total train here. KRDO13 has learned the team migration was a partial fulfillment in a pitch by the Performance Center with the nearby town of Kannapolis, North Carolina. The Kannapolis city manager detailing the original pitch to secure 6 or more national governing bodies, with even more Colorado Springs-based teams on the list. Kannapolis paying the U.S. Performance Center upwards of $1.1 million to secure the deal. City planners even dreamed of establishing it as Olympic City. The deal with Kannapolis ultimately fell through, though. They partially blame COVID, and the Performance Center refunded the city. The U.S. Performance Center, regardless, is thriving. Its founders told Sports Travel magazine last month for years they've come to Colorado Springs, meeting with teams to find out what they needed. It's the money, facilities, and resources the U.S. Performance Center offers that teams say they just can't pass up. Performance Center co-founder Ike Belk said, "We're here to be an asset and let everyone know North Carolina can be a home base and be a great place and a platform for athletes to thrive off of. I definitely have further aspirations, but I don't know if I can say that now." The United States Performance Center didn't deny its current negotiations with teams in Colorado Springs, but did say, "We've never used the phrase Olympic City and/or Olympic State." The document with that specific language is a City of Kannapolis internal document, not a USPC document. So where does that leave Colorado Springs and the presence of athletes at the Olympic Training Center?
I don't know if the brand matters as much as the experience. You know, the concept of Olympic City, USA is one where you could be downtown at a coffee shop and an Olympic gold medalist just wanders in and grabs a cup of coffee.
And it remains to be seen how many national governing bodies will stay there in Colorado Springs versus coming here to train. We're live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Heather Skold, KRDO13.
Today, the Colorado Springs mayor is responding for the first time since our report uncovered a number of Olympic teams leaving Colorado Springs to train in North Carolina, with others in talks to do the same. Our Heather Skold attempted to get answers today, but was cut off by the mayor's staff multiple times.
We don't share that sentiment.
We must be hearing different stories.
There are 2 sides of the story, like everything. There are always 2 sides of the story.
You know, and there's a nearby Kannapolis.
We're gonna wrap up at 10:45 here, so.
Okay.
All right.
Heather joins us live once again after asking the mayor some tough questions and attempting to ask a few more, including one about how his chief of staff is describing those teams that are leaving. Heather.
Bart, last week we uncovered that 4 Olympic teams that used to base their training here in Colorado Springs now train at the U.S. Performance Center in North Carolina in Charlotte. And our investigation also found that multiple other teams are in talks to potentially do the same. We wanted to know what that means for Olympic City, USA, and we also wanted to ask what the mayor thought about his chief of staff making recent comments about those teams. Your chief of staff is on record writing over the weekend that teams have left are very, very small. Is that your perspective, and can you help us understand what your office means by very, very small?
Yeah, so in my conversation with Sarah, the head of the Olympic Training Committee, she also confirmed that some of the teams, some of the groups that have left, maybe the organizations with 5 employees, 6 employees, 7 employees. I am actually trying to wrap my head around who's left and who's not left. According to the article, I believe I was notified that there are 3 potentially organizations that have moved, and I think
there
a couple.
There are already 4 actually.
Okay.
With many more to follow potentially.
Okay, I haven't heard that.
We then pressed the mayor about taxpayer money being spent and athletes leaving. Back to the Olympic athletes, I want to ask, does it bother you, does it worry you that our taxpayer money, $2 million a year, is going to the USOPC, and yet we have athletes that are saying, we just don't have the resources here, we're going elsewhere? Does that bother you?
No, it doesn't, because we still have a lot of athletes that I know personally who are proud to train here and who call this place home.
But who are leaving here?
And 10,000 of them. So again, that's part of any ecosystem. People come in, people move, people come in, they move. But does that mean we have a problem in our hands? I don't believe so. You have my commitment to ensure that I am doing the work. I am doing the communication. Like I said, this presents an opportunity for me to learn more about those athletes that are leaving.
KRDO13 Scott Harrison, the road warrior, has a front row seat at the construction site this morning. Good morning, Scott.
Yeah, hi again, Bart, and good morning again, everyone. Well, as you mentioned, Bart, this is something that we really don't get to see very often, at least this close up, pouring cement for a major bridge deck here. You know, as we all know, this has been a big year for big projects in the Colorado Springs area. CDOT just finished doing the overpasses over South Academy Boulevard, and now another big project here, 2 of 4 bridges here on South Academy. We're on the eastbound side right now, and we're showing you that process of pouring that cement and then smoothing it out so that it can harden. Good morning again, everyone. Well, this is a situation that developed just recently, according to 3 drivers who brought the situation to our attention. Over my shoulder here, you can see where that damaged area is. It's kind of a mix of potholes and sunken pavement, cracked pavement even, and it seems to be spreading like a virus across the 3 lanes of power. It now covers 2 lanes, the left lane and the center lane right now. The good news is no one was hurt in the incident on Saturday, and it happened just south of a similar pothole type of damage at Powers and Airport that we showed you recently was repaired by CDOT.
Their ranks pull from all walks of life, but their bonds are often stronger than family, and if one falls, someone is there to catch them.
That is the essence of our military. In this case, 2 unlikely strangers now have the bond of brotherhood, a life-altering accident 4 years ago, bringing them together in this month's military family. With a kiss to his bride of 66 years. Mark Maloney takes every move with purpose. Every turn requires help, but each effort brings him closer to his goal. Every week, the 88-year-old travels from his home in Monument, here, the VA hospital in Aurora.
So then he doesn't catch his toes when he's walking.
Outfitted with braces on his feet, a harness tethered to the ceiling.
You ready?
Yeah.
1, 2,
3.
Beautiful. Good job. Okay,
he feels freedom again.
1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. A 1.
There's no stopping him.
No, Mark doesn't take many rest breaks.
1 and a 2 and a 1.
Those drills in the military guiding him, giving him strength in this new, unexpected chapter of his life.
Left and the right. Whoop. In my infantry days, we did a lot of marching, and we always sang while we marched because it just helped.
Mark was a logistician in the Army's Transportation Corps.
Viet Cong made my life miserable.
You might have noticed what he's wearing, his Pikes Peak Ascent ball cap and Boulder t-shirt, a nod to the limits to which he pushed himself. Climbing Colorado's highest peaks, running marathons, triathlons, until it all came to a screeching halt 4 years ago.
June 3rd, yeah, a date marked in history for me.
He was biking on the Santa Fe Trail near downtown Colorado Springs.
I'll never know exactly what happened, but my eyes closed. I went off the trail, which was paved, which I had done at least 100 times. Went head first at a pretty good speed into a rock or rocks, boulders, and broke my neck. I have 16 screws in it to hold it up.
He could have died had it not been for a complete stranger happening upon the scene.
He knew what to do.
He, meaning Chris Brown.
And I thought maybe it was just some trash laying on the side of the road.
Chris, too, was biking down the trail, a first for him from his home down to Fort Carson. The Army medic just so happened to have packed medical supplies on his bike that day.
I knew it was pretty bad. He was unconscious. He was kind of gurgling up blood and different things.
Chris called 911, and paramedics got Mark to the hospital. It would be months later, Mark's family tracked down Chris, introducing the two. And though the accident left Mark a quadriplegic, it also left the two with an indelible bond, a friendship that feels more like family. The two completing races together, the Maloney family even there for Chris's promotion to major.
He gave me four more years. There we go.
These halls have now become Mark's new 14ers, where no step is taken for granted, but each done with determination.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, left and a right, left and a right. I don't know how long I'm going to live, but it's all been a gift.
Gift of life and the power of brotherhood. Mark shares his story in hopes of inspiring others. He says his next goal, the hardest yet, is to hold a cup of coffee. Now to a special report. It's taking longer than ever to get through to a 911 operator during an emergency in Colorado Springs.
KRDO13 Investigates has found that wait times here are now twice the national recommended times when it comes to getting a live dispatcher on the phone. And the problem doesn't appear to be getting better anytime soon. KRDO13's
Emily Coffey spoke with two mothers who waited nearly 3 minutes while their children were unconscious. Here's 911, please hold, a story you will only see here.
Colorado Springs 911, what's the location of your emergency?
I have a 5-year-old who's having a very long seizure. He's never had one like this before.
The woman on the phone is Haley Trechler, mom of 4-year-old Hudson.
My only thought is he going to make it?
Hudson suffered a 17-minute seizure in June.
Having my son in peril and not having any kind of rescue, yeah, it's kind of scary.
She waited 2 minutes and 50 seconds for a 911 operator to pick up.
Please don't hang up. We're experiencing heavy call volume.
It took too long for you guys to answer, so I'm driving him in.
The longer they are in a seizure, the more damage it can cause. I know there have been some children about his age that with Angelman syndrome that have passed away from the same situation.
Haley isn't alone. In the summer, the average call pickup time for any 911 caller in Colorado Springs was around 40 seconds. Now, that's while the National Emergency Number Association recommends that 90% of calls be picked up within 15 seconds. Here in Colorado Springs, that only happens about 55% of the time.
We're eating dinner in the kitchen and we hear like a thud. We found her at the bottom of the stairs, picked her up, and she went limp.
This video shows the moment Delaney's 2-year-old fell down a flight of stairs and landed on the back of her head. The toddler passed out, and Delaney and her friend Lauren called 911. They waited 3.5 minutes before hanging up and driving to the hospital.
After like 60 seconds passed and I hadn't been connected with an operator, I moved from like calm to irritated, and then we hit 2 minutes, and that kind of turned to anger, and then we hit 3 minutes, and I thought, they're never picking up.
Please don't hang up. We're experiencing heavy call volume.
We took their concerns to the man in charge of the Colorado Springs 911 Dispatch Center, Richard Suarez.
This has been an issue for a long time. Folks call 911, they have to wait on the line for 3 minutes before they even talk to a call taker. Why hasn't it been fixed yet?
We have been making efforts to fix the problem.
I'll let you go so you can speak to them, okay?
Suarez says continuously hiring, training, providing mental health help for call takers, and implementing an artificial intelligence system to filter calls are how they're working to fix the growing problem.
Medical emergencies are occurring in a city with a population of 500,000. The request for our services never stops.
This year,
Colorado Springs 911.
the city 911 call volume increased from 22,000 to 28,000 calls per month. Since 2015, the center has had a budget to hire 94 call takers and dispatchers. Right now, there are 78 people in those positions.
But even if we were to increase our authorized strength today, it's still going to take us time to actually hire those positions.
And once a call taker is at their desk, it's tough to keep them in these seats.
The high stress, dealing with life and death situations on a more than a daily basis, it's an hourly basis at times. It's hard on their mental and emotional well-being, and a lot of people just don't stay in the profession.
And while most 911 calls are legitimate, some people calling in with non-emergencies clog up the lines.
I just came home from work and there's a huge spider or spiders in my kitchen. I have a phobia.
Police say only call with a true emergency and stay on the line so a call taker doesn't have to track you down again.
It makes me wish we could answer their phone on the first ring, but the thing to keep in mind is the reason why we're not answering that is because we're addressing the other emergencies going on across the city. In a city our size, there's needs from our community all the time.
Still, an unsettling feeling for moms like Haley.
Have you thought about what it would be like to call 911 again here in Colorado Springs?
Yeah, I actually have given that a lot of thought, and I'm not sure that I would.
Please don't hang up. We're experiencing heavy call volume.
We've compiled the data on how long it will take for you to hear from a 911 caller in El Paso, Teller, and Pueblo counties. You can take a look for yourself right now on KRDO13. Emily Coffey, KRDO13 investigates.